as I'm sure you've heard since you clicked on this video, there's a lot of buzz going around about a little game called Path of Exile 2. So, what the hell is it? Well, I'm going to do my best to answer that question in as succinct a way as I can while still having a bit of fun doing so. Path of Exile 2 is the sequel to a really good game called Path of Exile, or PoE for short, which itself was a spiritual successor to the overwhelmingly popular Blizzard game from the year 2000, Diablo 2. What a classic. Yeah, this is way back when Blizzard was actually cool. Anyways, PoE 2 is developed by Grinding Gear Games, one of the best studios of all time when it comes to listening to and interacting with their players. Also, they're based in New Zealand, which is definitely based. It's out in early access right now, and you too can play it if you're willing to dish out a whopping 30 USD. If you're in no hurry though, it'll be free to play once it fully launches, which GGG said they plan on doing ideally within a year. It's out on PC, PS5, and Xbox 360. Yeah, we both know which one I actually mean. So like, what's the game actually about? Well, it's an ARPG, which stands for Action Roleplay. Wait, hold up. Sorry, word just came in that we are now calling these types of games Diablo-likes. Hey, don't look at me, I don't make the rules. It's a Diablo-like where you fight your way through hordes of enemies and take on challenging bosses with a bunch of different skills that you get to choose and modify in ways that no other game lets you do, while also having an incredibly deep and addicting gear progression system. No, seriously, the skill, customization, and exciting loot drops available even at the start of early access blows literally any other game out of the water, except for like, maybe Path of Exile 1. For now. If you've played any of these types of games before, then you already have a decent understanding of what you're getting yourself into, but for the uninitiated, here's a bit of a rundown. At the start of early access, there are a solid 6 different base classes that you can choose from, each with 2 subclasses called ascendancies that you get to specialize in at some point during the campaign. To be clear, you can only choose one ascendancy and you cannot change your mind afterwards. I've already got a quick 4-minute long class rundown video up, so go check that out if you can't decide which to pick, but basically the 2 melee classes are the warrior and the monk, and the range classes are the ranger, the sorceress, the witch, and the mercenary. Totally up to you to choose whichever you want at the start of the game. And yeah, because I know a lot of you are going to be disappointed when you hit that character creation screen, there is no visual character customization, and all the classes are gender locked. Nice. I know, I agree, it kinda sucks, but let's be real, you're gonna be looking at your character from like way up here, so come on. You're not gonna be able to check out that booty either way. So you've got your 6 classes and 12 total ascendancies for now, but did I mention that they will be adding 6 more base classes and 24 more ascendancies spread across all classes? That is freaking crazy, and that is exactly the kind of crazy I can get behind, if you know what I mean. To further customize your character, you can choose from well over 100 different active skill gems that actually do things like casting a fiery fireball or swinging your macy mace around. You can have a combination of like 8 or so of these. I don't know the exact number, it doesn't really matter, you can have several, you get the point. Then on top of that, you can customize how those skills behave by supporting them with support gems, with a maximum of 5 support gems on each individual active skill. These can do things like add extra projectiles, increase the AoE of them, convert one damage type to another, and so many more other exciting options. Now I know what you're thinking, holy shit, this is awesome, but also really overwhelming. Worry not, my friend, GGG actually thought about that this time around. Each base class is pseudo-tied to a weapon type, which in turn limits what skills you can choose to equip, and there are recommended skills for your character that GGG has pre-selected to make your skill choices that much less daunting. However, this does not mean you can't do something completely different from the recommendations. That is exactly what they are. Recommendations. They're for new players. If you want to forego the staff and be a spellcaster monk, you can technically do that. It's just not going to be the easiest to throw together, and you'll likely need to plan ahead. For what it's worth, on my first few playthroughs, I am totally going to be using the recommendations based on whichever skills I think look like the most fun, and I encourage you to do the same thing early on. Then there's a little thing called the passive skill tree, which, well, it's not so little. Yeah, don't be intimidated. These are all just passive nodes that improve your character in mostly subtle but important ways. Each class starts in one specific area of the tree, and literally there should be some relatively obvious nodes that you can choose to take as you level up that will improve your build depending on what you're trying to do with your character, as long as you're kind of staying on theme. Plus, if you hover over a node, you'll be able to see how your character is affected in a tiny little pop-up text box, which is amazing quality of life, trust me. There are 3 different tiers of passive nodes. Small ones which do not do a whole lot, but they add up, notables which give larger boosts to your character, and keystones which can drastically change the way your character behaves regarding certain mechanics. Early on, I'd avoid these as they usually come with downsides that you might not be ready to handle. And I mean, personally, I think it's way too soon for this, but if you're coming across this video later on, then there should be no shortage of build guides you can follow that will guide you through exactly which nodes to pick, and if they're a particularly good guide, they'll also tell you why. But also, like, real talk man, don't just blindly follow a guide on your first character, you're better than that. Okay, so we've established that we've got a bajillion different skill combinations to choose from, an enormous passive skill tree, and there's a lot of gear progression, which honestly I'm not gonna go all in depth into because I think that could be an entire video. What else should I mention? Well, PoE 2 is first and foremost an action game. You're gonna have to fight hordes of enemies and some incredibly challenging bosses heavily inspired by the Souls series, which is my favorite thing about the game. There are over 50 unique bosses, and the devs promised to double that number at full launch, which is just like pretty crazy, right? That's not just me. These aren't just reskins or anything like that. These are all different, with mechanics you'll have to learn to deal with, and man, visually I just think they're absolutely incredible. Besides that, I mean, there's already a lengthy campaign that on a first playthrough can take anywhere between 20 to 40 hours apparently, depending on how thorough you are, and fun fact, that only covers acts 1 through 3, which is only about half the game come full launch. Also, if you're a lore buff, then I think you're in good hands. PoE has always had really cool lore with a bunch of different corrupt gods and very dark themes. It just hasn't been super accessible. And well, PoE 2 looks to vastly improve that by having a campaign story that you'll actually be able to comprehend by the time you finish it. Crazy, I know. There's also a really promising endgame where you can push your characters to the limit with powerful items to acquire and even more spicy endgame only bosses to fight. I haven't gone there yet myself of course, so I'm only going off what's been promised, but everything sounds like it's gonna be addicting. And last but not least, I want to bring up the multiplayer. My dudes, you can play Path of Exile 2 in couch co-op, on console naturally, but even on PC. I simply cannot think of a better way to spend my Friday nights than playing PoE 2, cuddled up with my girlfriend, yelling at her to dodge roll out of a boss's nuke ability until the sun comes up, and I know you can't either. For real though, I think it having couch co-op is actually huge and more games need to do this. GGG, thank you. Naturally, you can also play online with your friends, even across different platforms. Go nuts. There are a bunch of other things that I could talk about like crafting items and the trade economy, but that'll have to wait for another time. If you got at least one chuckle out of this video, please hit that subscribe button. It's free and you can unsub whenever the hell you want. It's not a legally binding contract, so I cannot stop you even though I would if I could. Share the video with your friends and let me know what I didn't cover that you wish I did. Check out our Discord and have fun in Rayclast. Peace.